Lucy Letby, serial killer. Why did she kill? Part 13. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and thank you for joining me with regard to my detailed and continued examination of Lucy Letby to establish what she is. We are continuing by working our way through the circumstances of the death of each child and the instances where there was an attempted murder by Lucy Letby to understand what this tells us about her. Next is baby G. Letby was convicted of attempted murder on 2 occasions, September the 7th and September the 21st, 2015, but was found not guilty of attempted murder also on the 21st of September 2015. This girl was born prematurely in May 2015 at Arrow Park Hospital, Merseyside, weighing 1 pound and 2 ounces. In August, she was moved to the Countess of Chester Hospital. On September the 6th, the nurses put up banners and made a cake for her parents to mark her 100th day. In the early hours of the following morning, Letby allegedly injected an excessive amount of milk into baby G's stomach through a nasogastric tube. Johnson claimed that Letby had faked the time the girl collapsed to link it to a milk feed given by a colleague, and deliberately altered the baby's temperature on her observation chart to make it look as if she had been unwell before she stopped breathing. Baby G recovered, but on the morning of September the 21st collapsed again after being fed milk via a nasogastric tube, allegedly by Letby. The baby was later connected to a monitor that measures oxygen saturations and heart rate levels. In mid-afternoon, a nurse responded to Letby's shout for help and noticed the monitor had been switched off. The child had quadriplegic cerebral palsy and requires round-the-clock care as a result of the incidents. The defence said baby G's prematurity made her high risk and that Letby did nothing to contribute to what happened. With regard to 2 instances, the jury disagreed. Note that the nurses had put up banners and made a cake for the parents to mark the 100th day. Might this have been something that affected Lucy Letby? That people were celebrating that the child had survived for so long? Did this threaten her sense of control? Many of you will be familiar with my work about how the narcissist cannot stand it if it's somebody else's birthday and will invariably look to usurp the attention, spoil the day, create a scene in a variety of different ways. Might that have been a motivating factor for Lucy Letby, that because people were celebrating the circumstances of baby G and her parents, that this made her feel unimportant, made her feel like she didn't matter, and thus subconsciously that affected her need for control, resulting in her trying to bring control back by attempting to murder, on 2 occasions, baby G. Furthermore, the allegation, and of which she was convicted, was that she had deliberately changed the details of the baby's temperature on the observation chart to make it look as if she'd been unwell before she stopped breathing, and had faked the time the girl collapsed to link it to a milk feed given by a colleague. Accordingly, this would appear to be an abrogation of responsibility and duty, the blaming of somebody else who could have ended up in serious trouble themselves without any care or concern for the impact that it has upon them, thus not only demonstrating an absence of emotional empathy with regard to the child, but also with regard to a colleague also. What about the alteration of the records? Is this evidence of planning again and might possibly be linked to some form of awareness on the part of Letby? Is this a cruel, cold, and perhaps Machiavellian mind that's at work? In relation to baby H, Letby was found not guilty of attempted murder on September the 26th, 2015, and no verdict was reached with regard to a charge of attempted murder on September the 27th, 2015. In relation to baby I, she was found guilty of murder on the 23rd of October 2015. The court was told that Letby had tried to kill baby I, a girl, on 4 separate occasions before eventually succeeding. Before I continue in relation to this, it's worth noting the timeline that we have so far, and to reflect on that for a moment. The first murder, for the purpose of these proceedings and convictions at least, was June the 8th, 2015. Now, with baby I, we are in October. 4 months later. Nothing appeared to have occurred in July, at least nothing that has formed the basis of these proceedings. Therefore, let's revisit the question of, might it be that Letby was suffering from some kind of external stressor that was reducing her emotional empathy and causing her to act out, if you will? Some of you may find it extraordinary to think that somebody who would possess emotional empathy should suddenly flip so that they could commit a murder. But people under external stressors can behave in ways which are wholly uncharacteristic, that hitherto individuals who have never done anything wrong in their life, have never even perhaps had a parking ticket, can suddenly end up accused of the most serious of crimes and being convicted of them. Might it be that this was applicable to Lucy Letby? Well, a one-off instance where, in the heat of the moment, that somebody experiences an external stressor. So an obvious example is somebody who is being abused, who is being attacked by somebody, and in that instance, their emotional empathy is completely reduced towards their attacker, so they kill them. That is entirely conceivable. But Lucy Letby wasn't being attacked. Okay. Perhaps there was an alternative stressor of an external nature that caused her to turn on the children. Stress, an episode of psychosis, a feeling that she was struggling. Perhaps she was worn down with the demands on the neonatal unit, a high-intensity environment. It, of course, begs the question, why in June and not sooner? But perhaps that was her threshold. That was the point at which she was no longer able to cope. But thereafter, we have 4 months that follow of murders and attempted murders. That is quite a long period of time to be subjected to that external stressor. Furthermore, let us not lose sight of the evidence that we heard earlier on about how in between these murders, Letby was going about life quite normally, going out with friends, going on holiday, seemingly cheerful and content and happy. Could it be that this is an individual who was able to function, but then the external stressor only manifested when she was at work, thus causing her to act in this fashion? Possibly, but it seems less likely. It seems less likely that an external stressor was causing this behaviour because, 1, there were repeated instances of it. 2, these instances were over a time span of 4 months, and as you know, even longer, because the offences went on over a year. And 3, in between the offences, she behaved as if she was not under an external stressor. And therefore, it would seem to me that this pattern of activity does not support the application of an external stressor, but rather that there was something else at play. Returning to baby I, Johnson, the barrister, claimed that Letby gave herself away during the second attempt when she remarked to a colleague, the nurse Ashley Hudson, that baby I looked pale from when they were standing in the doorway, looking into the darkened nursery. It is immediately apparent that if she's looking into a darkened nursery, how can she see that a baby looks pale? And that's why Johnson quite properly suggested that she gave herself away. Does this fit with someone who's cold and calculating? Or can someone who's cold and calculating still make a mistake? Or is it more representative of an individual who is acting in the moment and, in that moment, needs to assert control over a colleague and does so by triangulating her with a child, by suggesting the child looks pale, with the consequence that she commits a problem by giving away that she's pale when she couldn't possibly see that looking into a darkened nursery, and could only know that if she had some additional knowledge, i.e., she had harmed the child. When the nurses went to check on the baby girl, they saw she was not breathing. The prosecution claimed that Letby could not have seen the colour of her skin from that distance, and, as I've mentioned, that she only knew of her condition because she had attacked her. Medical experts for the prosecution concluded that the baby was killed by an injection of air into the stomach through a nasogastric tube. The baby's mother later claimed the malevolent nurse smiled as she watched her bathe her deceased daughter for the final time. Was that a smile of reassurance from somebody exhibiting emotional empathy, or was that the smirk of a narcissist? The receipt of the fuel from the anguished responses of a mother, a grieving mother who was bathing her deceased daughter. Might it be the case that the receipt of that fuel was such that it broke through the facade, the power that Letby was experiencing at seeing the grief-filled fuel flowing towards her from this mother? It was around this time that suspicions among the consultants on the unit began to deepen. Ravi Jairam, a consultant giving evidence, said that he and other consultants raised the issue with the executive director of nursing, but the response was to carry on and see what happens. At the time, we were being told that really we shouldn't be saying such things and not to make a fuss, Jairam said in court. In relation to baby J, no verdict was reached in respect of an allegation of attempted murder on November the 27th, 2015. With regard to baby K, no verdict was reached with regard to a charge of attempted murder of February the 17th, 2016. Around this time, 4 consultants, referred to by the prosecution as a gang of 4, raised concerns about Letby and asked for a meeting with senior management. They would have to wait a further 3 months before they were seen. Jairam said in court that he wished he had bypassed the hospital management and gone straight to the police. More evidence that's providing us with more insight as to what Lucy Letby may well be. In the next part, we're going to continue and finalise the analysis of the charges and the circumstances of the crimes committed by Lucy Letby in relation to the children as part of the accumulation of the evidence to make a determination as to what she is. Join me there.